Okay, the recording has been started. I hope my screen is visible. Can you please confirm someone? Are you good?
Yes, sir.
So today we are going to see an interesting content, which is what? Which is the final variable in Java. Okay. So we already know something about the final variables, but I want to introduce few things which I haven't discussed yet with respect to the final keyword, right? So generally, when I say final keyword, when I say final variable, okay, when I say final variable, it is just like when you declare a variable with the final keyword, it is called as final variable. I can simply say that, simply I can define like it. Define the final variable like this. Whenever a variable is declared with the final keyword, okay, the variable becomes what? The variable becomes it is called as the final variable. It is called as final variable. So you cannot just simply say that the final variable is something which is just declared with the final keyword. Okay, you have to add few more points. I can also say that when you have any constant which cannot be changed, those constants needs to be declared with the final keyword. Okay, what do I really mean? For example, if I want to introduce the real-time analogy, let us say that I want to open a bank account. Let me say that I want to open a bank account with a bank. Okay, let me take the name of the bank as bank name as something like, so there is a bank called ABC Bank. I just want to open an account with this ABC Bank. Okay, so me as a customer, I will be approaching this bank as a customer, right? So let us say that this is you. I will be approaching this bank ABC Bank as a customer, right? So the ABC Bank is going to ask you so many information like, you need to submit your the name, address information. You need to submit the valid address proof, valid identity proof. So many things you have to submit, so that the ABC Bank will generate an account number. The account number is going to be unique always. So account number gets generated after submitting your details. What are the details that you're going to submit? Okay, yeah, we will be submitting something like the name information, right? Something like the address information, right? Address information, okay. And again, to validate the name, okay, they require something like the 10th class mark sheet. So nowadays they are validating the name against the 10th class mark sheet. To validate the address, you would be required to submit the something like Aadhaar card number or ration card number, Aadhaar card details, Aadhaar card. Just show the Aadhaar card, they are going to validate the address information, right? So this account number is getting generated based upon the information that you're going to submit. Name information, for the time being, I'm taking it as the name information and the address information. Okay, and also this is for the identification, okay, and for the validation or for the authorization, they would be asking you few important details like phone number nowadays for authorization, and they would be asking you for the email address. Okay, if you make any transactions, okay, you will be authorized through the OTP. That OTP will be sent to your phone number or the email address. So this is for the authorization purposes, and this is for the identification purpose. But tell me one thing, you have the account number, right? And also let me take that, the respective branch is going to have a dedicated IFSC code. IFSC code. If I ask you, if I want to create a class, if I want to create a class, okay, let me create a class like bank class. Okay, if I want to store the data, I will be using all these properties, isn't it? I'll be using the account number. I will be using a data type for the account number, integer account number. Let me keep it very simple, and let me say that IFSC string IFSC. Likewise, for the phone number, let me take it as long. Okay, phone number. And if you see, except for the account number, okay, the account number with respect to bank is going to be fixed always. Once the account number is generated, it is going to remain as an unique number. There will be no duplications for the account number. So if you visit a bank, you will be verified not by your name, you will be verified only upon your what? Only upon your account number. Yes or no? Do you agree with me? Only with the help of account number, you will be verified, not by your name or not by your pet name, not like that. They ask for the account number. Based upon the account number, they're going to fetch all the information about you, about the transaction information, about the phone number, email address. Everything is part of what? Everything is part of the account number, right? And can I say that this account number is going to be fixed forever? Is there a way for us to change this account number? Once it is generated, it's generated. No one can change this. Even the bank people cannot even change this. You cannot say like, hey manager, can you please change my account number because it is not according to my Vastu, according to my astrology. Can you make the changes? Because if the account number ends with 999, it means that I will be as per the astrological science, I will be making a lot of money. You cannot do like that, isn't it? So this account number is going to be fixed. If you want to store any data, that is going to be fixed forever. If there are high chances that the data is not going to get changed forever. For example, in mathematics, there is something like pi. Pi value is fixed, isn't it? For example, the name of the country. Maximum the country name is going to be same. It's going to be fixed forever. No one changes the name of the country from time to time. It's going to be fixed. Likewise, we have something like the name of the river. So many things are that it is going to remain the same name forever. If you find such data, if you want to store such data, you have to go for what? You have to go for a keyword called the final keyword. Okay, so during the application development, you will be dealing with a lot of data. You create a classes, right? And you create some properties, right? But you should be in a position to place on which property you have to place the final keyword and which property you are not supposed to place the final keyword. When I say final keyword, it should be placed on a property or should be placed on a variable, okay, which is going to be fixed forever, isn't it? So I can say that please be informed that when you have any constant variable, you will have to, okay, or else I can say that it needs to be placed using the final keyword. Okay, with respect to variable, the final keyword is used to store the data which is going to be constant, which cannot be changed very often, which is going to be fixed. For example, okay, let me say, what is the difference between the ordinary variable and the final variable? When I say integer a equal to 100, okay, by looking at this, I can simply say that this is a simple instance variable. Okay, so I can do a lot of manipulation on my instance variable. What kind of manipulation that I can do? Okay, the value is assigned as 100. 100 has been assigned to the variable a. If I want, I can do a modification like a equal to a plus 10. So the latest a has a value 110, modification 1, right? Second modification, I can also do like a equal to, okay, a plus 20. Second modification, this is the modification 1, okay, and this is the modification 2, right? To keep you are I can also say it like this variable is exposed to modification, right? It is open for the modification. There are no restrictions here, but you want to ensure that the variable should not get modified at all. You want to place such restrictions, copy the same thing, just to place the final keyword before even performing the declaration initialization. If you use final keyword, then these modifications are not allowed. This variable becomes what? Final instance variable. Okay, modification 1 is not allowed. You cannot modify at all. This is not allowed. This is also not allowed. Once it is declared, it is declared. It is final. Right? So since it is, by looking at this, I can say that it is final instance variable. Okay. Likewise, there is another variable which is going to the static keyword and the final keyword is going to go together. Now this becomes static final static variable or static final variable. Anyway, you can say static final variable. Right? Even for the static final variable, it is not allowed. Once you see the final keyword, the modifications are not allowed. Why they are not allowed? You are going to represent the constants. Right? For example, if I have a for loop, so let me take the for loop like for integer I equal to 0. Okay, I is lesser than or equal to 5, I plus plus. Let me say I equal to 1. Let me say. Okay. So simply I am saying system dot out dot print ln. Okay, I want to print the value of I itself. Okay, just see the variables. Variable is not a final variable. Now the output is going to be very simple. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be displayed in the console. This is possible. Okay, this is possible, right? And also you have an option to do what? You have an option to keep the variable as final. So they would ask you in the interview question, they would ask you whether this is possible or not possible. What should be your answer when I keep the final keyword here? Now, can you tell me what is it possible or not possible? This is interview question. That's why I'm asking. Anyone? Hello? Are you following?
Not possible.
Is this not possible? Okay, so let me spoon feed you everyone. Okay, so this is, I have taken a simple class test. I have taken class A. I have taken class test. Okay. Now see what would happen. Let me say integer A equal to 100. That A equal to A plus 10. A equal to A plus 10. Right. I'm taking a method void test method. Okay, this test method will give me the value of system dot out dot println. I want to print the value of A. Let me remove this class A, not required. Okay, so what I am doing, I am creating an object for the test class, a new test, obj dot test. So tell me what would be the answer if I execute this code.
A will produce.
What
A
is the value of A? That's what I'm asking.
110.
110 will be printed, right? So why 110 will be printed? Because the variable A is open for modification because it is not a final variable, isn't it? It's not a final variable. Simply what I can say, let me compile this Java C space hyphen D space dot space test dot Java. What is this? Identifier expected. A equal to A plus 10. Integer A equal to 100. A equal to. Okay, okay. Let me do it. Okay. I cannot do that outside. I have to do the manipulations inside the method. Let me run. Mathematical operations cannot be done outside. Okay, compilation is successful and execution. Java space abc dot 110 is the comment. The moment I start using the final keyword, okay, now here the problem comes. Okay, now final keyword, there is a complete restriction that you are not supposed to you're not supposed to make any changes. 100 should remain as 100, but here I am performing a manipulation, a kind of violation to the final variable, isn't it? If I do this, you will get an error. Now see what is the error that you're going to do. You see, cannot assign a value to the final variable a equal to a plus 10. Once the value is assigned, okay, that's it, that is final. You cannot perform what? You cannot again perform a kind of what? Again perform a kind of modification. So this is complete. Now I am going to ask you one question. Just try to answer this. Just trying to think and answer, give the answer to this question which I am asking now. Okay, I have a test method. Inside this test method, let me keep the value as 1. Okay, think and answer. I'm saying, tell me whether this is valid or invalid, or tell me what are your actual thoughts. Let me say, let me do like this. I'm leaving the expression 1 as just like that. I'm not giving any instructions in the expression 1. In the expression 2, I am just doing a kind of comparison. A is lesser than or equal to 5. Expression 3 also I am leaving it just like that. System dot out dot println. Okay, let me keep this here. Okay, let me keep the expression 1 here. So I have a test method. Inside the test method, I have taken a simple for loop. Okay, the for loop is going to print the value of a itself. Okay? Print the value of a itself. But if you look at the expression 1, the initialization part, I have taken it as the final variable. And now you tell me what would be the output if I execute this test method.
Only one will print.
Only one will print, huh? So this is valid or invalid?
Valid.
Valid only. Why? Because by looking at this code, we will be under an impression that, okay, the final variable, even though you're using the final variable, we will be under the impression that there is a modification happening for this variable, but you don't see any modification here. Just the value of a is 1, and there is a comparison. Okay, this expression 2 is going to return true always, and it is going to print the value which is 1 itself. Okay, that since there is no expression 3, the loop is going to be an infinite loop. Do you agree with that? Loop is infinite loop, isn't it? See, one will be printed forever. So we have discussed these things in the for loop examples 1 month ago, right? There is no expression 3. The moment I start performing either increment or decrement, now you tell me what would be the answer.
Error.
Now error will come because there is a violation. Now a is getting modified, right? A plus plus means this is a final variable and it is found to be getting some modification. So this is not allowed. And you get the direct error. Cannot assign a value to the final variable. So this is one of the examples. So we know this already. And one thing you should remember is sometimes, now you tell me, okay, let me remove this. Let me remove this method. Okay, when I declare a variable like in final integer a, so I am just doing the declaration, but I am not assigning any value. Focus here. I am just doing the declaration, but I am not assigning any values. We run this code. Okay. 1 minute. This is something different. Okay, I need to remove this. Run this code. Variable a not initialized in the default constructor. What does it really mean? You can take a final variable, okay, but we have to ensure always the value is getting assigned to this final variable for now. If you're not assigning any value, if you just declare the final variable without assigning any value, you get an error. So when you declare the final variable, okay, it is your duty to assign the value also, right? So see if I remove this, now this is an integer variable, I mean a variable of integer type. I am not assigning any values here, right? You don't have any issues now. It is getting compiled successfully, it is getting executed successfully. But when you change this to final, okay, final means you talk about constant, but where is the constant value? Which constant value you are talking about? You have to place the constant for sure. Okay, by this example, I can conclude that if anyone is asking in the interview room, is valid or invalid? Definitely this is invalid. Okay, why this is invalid? Okay, explanation. Okay, you will see some cases. The above code is invalid, but above code gives the compile time error. Because final variable should be declared and initialized at the same time. If the initialization is missing, there will be an error. There will be below compile time, isn't it? What is the compile time error? So this is the compile time error. Okay. I will tell you what is this default constructor. We are going to see this. Okay. For now, this is the case one. You get this kind of question in review. Always remember the value should be assigned. Okay, what is the next case? Okay, before understanding the next case, I want to understand the two things. What is the difference between final integer a equal to 10 and final static b equal to 20? If I ask you, can you tell me the difference between these two variables? Okay, what you will be saying? Both are final variables, but the above one is what? The above one is the instance final variable. Second one is what? Static final variable. So what is the difference that we have between these two variables? Even though they are same with respect to final keyword, but they are not same with respect to the type in the sense it is static, it is non-static. Okay, so both are, again I can say that both are completely constant. You cannot change this, and also you cannot change this. But where is the exact difference that we have between these two variables? We will understand that, right? First one is, this is the constant for up to object level. Okay, I can say that this up to object level in the sense, see, you can create any number of objects for the test class, right? For each and every object references, the constant is going to be a equal to 10, a equal to 10, a equal to 10, right? But the static b equal to 20, the final static integer b equal to 20, this is talking about the shareability, and it is going to be constant up to the class level. It's going to be constant up to the class level. The main difference is, see guys, for example, let me create a obj equal to, not a test obj equal to new test. Okay, I have created one object. Okay, I want to create three objects. So this is object 1, this is object 2, and this is object 3. If I just execute this piece of code, okay, let me also take a normal variable integer c equal, or else we say string C equal to a garbage data will take C equal to just a kind of garbage data. If I just move this code to the paintbrush, now you focus here, right? So I have what? I have something like, let us start the execution from the main method, right? So we know this compile or compiler, we know the JVM, right? The compiler is going to generate test.class file. So this is compiler. Okay. And the JVM comes into the picture, right? And the moment you start executing this test.class, this will be loaded inside the JVM. At the time of loading inside the JVM, if there is any static content, that will be recognized and executed. Yes or no? This is JVM. At the time of loading the dot class, if there is any static content, that will be recognized and executed. So we have one final static content, right? Okay. So there is a method area. So inside this method area, integer a equal to, not integer a, integer b equal to 20. This will be stored in which area? This will be stored in the method area. Okay, after this, what you are doing, the heap area is going to come to the picture. So there is an heap area. Right? So inside the heap area, you are creating how many objects? Main thread will be created. Main thread gets access to the main method. So these are the things that we have been discussing for a long time. I'm just keeping it very simple. So obj1 new test, for every new keyword, okay, an object will be created. For the first object, okay, it is going to store the reference, properties or the variables. What are the variables? Instance variables it is going to store. There are two instance variables. One is integer final instance variable, final a equal to 10, right? And the second one is what? One string is also there. String is what? C equal to testing. And this object is which reference? This object is obj1 reference. obj1 reference. Likewise, for all the new keywords, a new object will be created. Okay, and for the third object also, this will be created, right? And this is going to have reference obj2, and this is going to have reference obj3. Okay, this is part of what? Heap area. Okay, every object has the final variable. This object will have one final variable, this object have one final variable, and this object also have one final variable. So you cannot change this content. You cannot change this content. This content cannot be changed. Okay, this value cannot be changed. This value cannot be changed. However, you are open to change this content because it is not final. It is something like testing, right? And you see the instance final variable. Okay, I'm talking about this one, guys. I'm talking about the final variable, which is an instance one. Okay, this instance final variable is there in each and every individual objects. So if you create 100 objects, for each and every object, for all the 100 objects, there will be a separate variable, and the variable is what? Final variable. That's why it's non-shareable. Okay, it is like it is in the instance level. But when you see the static final variable, the static final variable will be shared by this object. This is shared by this object. This is also shared by this object. That's why this is shareable. Okay. By looking at this, we can conclude one thing. Okay, there is one advantage with the static final variable. You can save a lot of memory because both are constants, right? Instant final variable is also a constant. Static variable final variable is also constant. But when you take static final variable, you can declare the variable only once, and you do not have to declare in every object. Only once it is declared, and lot of memory will be saved, right? Memory will be saved. But there are some cases where you would be preferring the instance final variable. That we will understand. If anyone is asking you what is an advantage of static final variable, you should say it is going to save a lot of memory. You declare only once, that is shareable to all the objects. To create 100 objects, if you create 1000 objects, one static final variable is enough. One static final variable is enough. Okay, this variable is shared to all the 100 objects. See guys, for example, in a company, I'll give you the real-time example. Let us say a company like TCS, let us say. In the Chennai branch, okay, there are about more than, there are more than 10,000 employees will be there, right? So they keep what? Okay, to identify each an employee, they are part of TCS, right? They keep the static, they keep the content TCS in a variable called static final variable. Okay, this data, this TCS data will be shared for all the 10,000 employees. Lot of memory will be stored, right? I'm talking about only one data. I'm talking about only one property. There are many properties, such properties like that, which is going to be constant forever. Right? Okay, sir, this is going to save us a lot of memory. What about this instance variable that we will discuss? There are some places where you will be dependent upon this instance variable. We will discuss. Now tell me, please type yes in the chat box if you have understood so far. Are we good till now? Hello. Lakshmi is responding. Huh? Okay, so let it be. I will take yes from everyone. I will consider it as yes. Let me remove this. Okay. One more thing you should understand. Okay. Static final variable. Please be informed that if you please be informed that static final variable can be preferred to save in memory. Prefer to save memory. And it is the constant and the shareable data. Throughout the class. Throughout the class. Right? And also one more thing you should remember. These final variables static final variables should be declared with the public access modifier, since it is a constant and it is shareable. So this is always recommended when you have a static variable, static final integer a equal to 100, something like this. Always remember you should declare the static final variable with the public access modifier. Okay, this is one of the takeaway. Right? Now you see there are some cases. See, I was telling you, right? I was just telling you, if you just for example, let us say, let me take the name of the class as employee class. Okay, employee class. I'm changing the name of the class as employee class. I'm taking a variable integer ENO, employee number. I'm just doing the declaration. Okay, and also what I am doing, I am keeping it as final. Okay. I just now explained you. If you are defining a final variable, you are also supposed to initialize the value. Yes or no? You are also supposed to initialize the value. But I do not want to do it. But still, I should be able to compile this. What changes that I can make? If I run this piece of code, guys, let me save this file. Save as employee.java. I have just saved this. Let me compile this. How I can compile Java C space -d space dot space employee dot. It says variable envo not inserted in the final default. It says it is not allowing us. right? If I just give the value, it is okay, it is going to be okay, there will be no issue. But what I'm doing, instead of assigning the values directly, I'm going to use a constructor. Now this example will make more sense. Okay? I'm going to use a constructor. What constructor I'm going to use? I'm going to use employee constructor, okay, which is going to accept the employee number in the parameter from the object creation, right? I'm going to assign that to this final variable. Okay, just now I have said that value needs to be assigned, but I'm taking the support of the constructor. I'm taking the support of the constructor. If I take the support of a constructor for the final variable, okay, now you don't see any compile time error. Previously there was an error. Now we are not seeing any error. What is happening behind the scenes? Okay. See, now what I'm doing, now let me take employee E1 equal to new employee. Okay, I am passing 101. Likewise, I am taking three objects. Employee E2 equal to 102. Okay, employee E3 equal to 103. Okay, this is the final variable. I am assigning the values through the constructor. If you place a constructor, you can assign the values to the final variables through the constructor. This is valid. But if you don't use this constructor, this becomes invalid. Okay, so if you're not using constructor, definitely you should assign the values at the time of declaration. This is valid. But since you're using a constructor, it is an optional, because values are expected through the constructors. Values are expected to the constructors. What difference this is going to make? This code has a lot of internal logic. This code has a big idea inside this. What is the idea here? Okay, if I just try to do what? Okay, now can you tell me the answer? System.out.println. Okay, I just want to print E1 dot env. Okay, E2 dot env. Okay, and at last E3 dot env. E3 dot env. Can you tell me what would be the answer? Simple question there.
101, 102, 103.
101, 102, 103. See, it is not like we are assigning the values to the constructor. We are assigning the final values to the constructor. I did not say this. Huh? E1 dot.
Employees, ABC dot employees. Typing system. Compiler.
Okay. I'm just keep compiling. Okay, employee. 101, 102, 103. Right? Now look at the idea. So what difference this is making? Okay, you can use ordinary variable now. Instead of final, I can use ordinary. But what difference is making? What difference is making? Okay, so let me execute. Let me trace this. Okay, now you are in a position. Okay, there is a big advantage for this. Now you have to focus this too. You have taken a final variable and you haven't assigned the value, but you are using a constructor, so no compile time error. This time, three objects are created, right? You are creating three objects. Okay? What are the name of this object? One is E1, second one is E2, then the third one is what? Third one is E3. E1 you have taken, E2 you have taken what? You have taken E3 you have taken. Okay, now you are passing 101. Okay, so there is a final variable which is env and it has 101. Okay, and likewise you are passing 102. So there is a final variable and there is env. 102 is assigned to this env. Like this, you are passing, you are declaring 103. Okay. Each and every object has its own final variable. Don't you think so? Which cannot be modified. In a company, when an employee number is generated, that is going to be fixed now. Right? You are fixing this through the constructor, which means you have to generate, if you have 1000 employees, you have to generate 1000 objects. If you have such requirement, each and every object can independently have its own final variable. This has one independent value, right? This has one independent value. 101 is a different value, then 102 is different, 103 is different. And again, these values cannot be changed. Okay, as soon as you assign the values through the constructor, okay, if you try to perform any kind of modification, let us say that I am doing something like this. I am doing something e1.eno equal to, I am changing it to what? 100, something like this. Now the system will definitely throw an error. Okay, I did not save this. See, cannot assign a value to final variable because already the value has been assigned to this constructor. Okay, for the first time you can assign the value. As soon as the value is assigned, you are not supposed to make any changes because the value is getting fixed here. Fixing the value, you are assigning the value for the first time, the final variable through the constructor. And again, after doing this, if you try to do the modification for the same value, for the same variable, which is a final variable, you get error here. This concept is called as what? In the interview room, they will ask you what kind of concept is this. This concept is called as what? The blank final variable. Blank final variable. What is a blank final variable? Okay, by this I can say that it refers to a variable that is not initialized first, that is not initialized at the time of declaration, but we have an option to assign values through the constructor. You can say that it's a variable or else it's a final variable that is not initialized. It is not initialized when the variable is declared. Okay, but we have an option to do what? To assign the values later to the constructor. Okay, once the value is assigned, you cannot make any changes. And again, if see, now one more thing, see, you try to do this. Okay, now see, this is giving me an error. So I'm focusing, I'm doing a different thing. Okay, I'm trying to access that. I'm trying to access the final variable. Here I'm trying to access the final variable, right? Okay, let me remove this. Let me take an ordinary constructor. Let me take a normal constructor. Okay, I'm creating an object by using this constructor which is not accepting any argument. A obj equal to, employee obj equal to new employee by using the ordinary constructor. So there is an ordinary constructor, no argument constructor. So with the help of this reference variable, I am trying to do what? I am trying to access ENO. Okay, I can call the variable. This variable can be called with any constructor. Right? So I am declaring an ordinary constructor, no argument constructor, default constructor, so that I will try to catch the value of ENO. If I do this, let me try to perform the compilation. The variable ENO might not have been initialized. What it says, it is mandatory before accessing the final variable when the value is not even assigned. Before accessing that, you have to ensure that the values are initialized to the constructor. If you are not doing it, you will get an error. You cannot access it when the value is not assigned. I'm trying to access it before assigning the actual values to the final variable. If you do so, you will get what? You will get a compiled error. Right? What else I can say here? is be informed that before accessing the final variable, the blank final variable. Or else you'll get the load compile time error. What is the compile time error? Right? So what are the advantages of we are talking about the blank final variable? I can also say that instant final variable. Simple, isn't it? Instance blank final variable. Then what are the advantages with this? Advantages. Okay. Allows final keys to have different values for different objects, which is final, which is constant. Constants for different objects. Okay. There is a keyword that we'll introduce. It is going to ensure immutability for the variables, which means immutable means constants, or immutable means the values cannot be changed. So this is an advantage of what instant blank final variable. One is what instance blank final variable, right? The second one is you have the static blank final variable. What is it? The static blank final variable. See, let us see that example. Let me change this to the static. Instead of employee number, let me take string company. Okay, let me remove this. Let me remove this also. Okay, I have a class employee. Inside my class employee, I have something like final static string company. So the value is not assigned. Declaration is completed. This is static final variable. And what I'm trying to do here is system.out.println. I'm trying to access the company information. Since it is static, I can use the class name. I can use the variable name followed by the dot operator. Let us see what would be the output if I try to perform this. It says variable company not initialized in the default constructor, final static string company. It says this is the final variable. The declaration is completed, initialization is missing. This is static. Previously we have discussed some instance. This is static. I'm trying to access that, it is not accepted. But when I give the company directly, when I assign the value, something like let us say TCS, I won't be having any issues. Okay. You get TCS. But when I remove this value, when I just keep the declaration and I'm trying to access it, okay, it has issues. It's giving me this error. Okay, and this variable is called was I want to treat this variable as blank final variable, blank static final variable. Okay, I can assign the value by using the static block. By using the static block, I can say company equal to TCS. Previously, for the instant blank final variable, I have used the constructor. Okay, now I am using the static block to assign the values. See guys, this may you may look this kind of confusing. Why one has to use the static block to assign the value? Okay, in the future you get this company data from a different resources or from a different class. Example, you are dependent upon this company data by invoking a different method in the runtime. Like you will call a method like get company name. This value is depend upon executing the different method. This method is going to return the value which could be TCS. This will be assigned here. So these things happen in the runtime. In the reality, these things will happen. You want to capture such data, okay, and if you want to keep it as a constant, we go for what? We go for static final. Let me say public final static string company. I am assigning the value to the company here. TCS. Okay, now the problem will be resolved. TCS. Right? So this concept is called as what? Blank static final variable. What is this? The blank static final variable. Making sense? Okay. So far we haven't discussed like you may be thinking we haven't discussed much. So please okay. So what else we have discussed? First thing always remember, I will give you only three cases. Always remember that. First thing is case 1, any variable integer equal to 100. If you want to make this as a constant variable, declare it as final. First thing, right? And if you use static keyword, it becomes static final variable. If you remove static keyword, it becomes non-static final variable. Use static keyword, it is shareable. It is shareable for the employee class. If you remove the static, it is not shareable, but it is created for the object level, right? And if you remove the value, if you if you are not assigning the value, if you have just declared the variable, the final variable, you get an error. Okay? For instance, final variable, to avoid getting an error, you go with what? You use the constructor to assign the values in the real time. Okay, this concept is called as what? Blank final variable. Okay? And if it is a static, okay, instead of constructor, you use what? You use something like the static block. This is called as what? Blank static final variable. If anyone is asking you, is there a way that I can just keep the declaration, forgetting the initialization? Yes, there is a way. You have to go for blank final variable so that you can assign the values through the constructor. If it is non-static, and if it is static, you will assign the value through the static blocks. Right? Just practice these things. Once repeat this video. Definitely, you can practice these things in the online compiler also. You can do a kind of lot of research for the final variable. Okay, and there is something called final methods and final classes. You have something like final classes. This will be discussed when we are discussing about the inheritance concept, and there is something like final methods. This will be discussed when we are discussing about the polymorphism concept. This will be covered there. Now it will not make any sense if I start explaining this. Tomorrow we will complete enums in Java. Okay. Enums a little bit what we call it as, it is just like the final. Okay, you deal with the final data, you go for enums also. This will be very interesting. Okay, we will see this tomorrow. That's all from my side. If you